What you're going to need is 2 eggs, 200 grams of flour, 1 rolling pin, 1 knife, 1 cutting board, 1 hand-cranked pasta machine, and some extra flour for kneading. Now let's pretend that we didn't already have our flour all weighed out. I have 200 grams of flour here, but I'm going to show you how to measure it out using a digital scale. So you have your scale and it's set to 0 grams. When you put the bowl on the scale, you want to find this button that says 0 on it and wait until the numbers stop moving. You press that button once and it goes to 0. Then you take flour and you add it to the bowl until the scale says 200 grams. 205 or 195 is okay, but the key is just to keep the flour to egg ratio 1 egg to 100 grams of flour. So we have our flour all measured out, so we no longer need our scale. The next step is to beat the eggs. The trick that I found when it comes to beating eggs for pasta is the better that you beat the eggs to begin with, the easier it is to combine the pasta. Now, I know there's a lot of different recipes for pasta. The standard one is 4 cups of flour to 4 or 5 eggs. There's a reason why I don't use that recipe. 4 cups of flour is rather subjective. When you weigh your flour, you know exactly how much flour you have to the gram. You can have a very full cup or a very empty cup, but with weighing, you know exactly how much flour you have. There's still a little bit of white left in, so we just want to keep beating that. The better that you beat it, the easier it is when we make a well. Now, there's a trick to making pasta dough that makes it exceptionally easy. So we build up the sides, and we pour the eggs in. Now, the same motion you use in cupcakes is the motion that you're going to be using to combine pasta dough. So I just bring the walls of the well down and around and to the middle. And the goal is to bring as much egg around so it's evenly distributed. Now, as you can see, it's starting to form clumps. That's good. I'm going to do a couple figure 8 motions here just to get as many big clumps as possible broken up, because it'll be a much smoother knead. See, you can start to see that it's becoming a little bit flaky and the clumps are sticking together. If I press with a fork, they just bind. That's a really good sign. That means that the egg is even, and it's going to be much, much easier to get the gluten structures formed properly. So I'm just going to take my hands in there. I have clean hands. And as you can see, as I knead, it becomes much more elastic. I actually don't need all this flour that's here. And the key really is just to knead for 10 minutes. I've tried all sorts of other cheats, and you really just have to put the work in. The more work you put into your pasta, the better it tastes. I'm almost finished up here. Now, pasta tastes really good if you rest it for a while, but you don't want to rest it too early. You want to make sure you have the nice elastic give that you're beginning to see here. If you rest a pasta too early and it's stiff, when you cut into it and try to get it through your machine's just going to shake. It's much, much harder because you're asking a hand-cranked machine to do the work that you were supposed to do when kneading. You can see that the pasta is this really nice pale color. And that's a good sign. If it's too yellow, it starts to turn a bit of a gray as you let it rest, and that's a sign that it's too moist. And if it's too dry, it looks much flakier, like these bits that fell off. You can see that it's almost marbled. There's this nice pull. I'm going to roll this up. For the sake of the video, I'm going to cheat a little. So when you let it rest, you get just this amazing give. You can see it right now. The pasta dough itself is moving a little bit. So when you let it rest, this whole thing relaxes and it lets go, and you end up with this lovely disc of pasta. But I'm going to cheat a little bit. So I have the cutting board here. I'm going to take off a nice thin couple of slices. Now, there's a couple ways that you can do this. You could put the slice in right away by pinching around the outside, and that makes it thin enough to thread through your pasta maker on the first setting. But the pasta maker is going to shake a whole lot. You're going to end up with, a lot of force on your table, and you'll end up feeling a little bit of strain. Take the rolling pin, press it nice and flat. Again, if you're using clean hands and a clean counter, it's okay to get a little dirty in the kitchen. So you can see that I've done a lot of the work in advance. A little flour's okay. So I've got the pasta maker, and in school they taught us that the more you go through on a single setting, the more the gluten binds. So you'll see that I'm taking the pasta through the first setting quite a few times, and it ends up being silky and smooth and just really lovely to work with. And again, I'm going to go through the second setting a couple of times. I started on setting 1, and I went up to setting 4, and there's 9 dials, with 9 being the thinnest. So for spaghetti, I'm going to be working on setting 4. And my hand crank works in both sections, so that makes it pretty easy. So I'm going to attach it to the spaghetti setting and just bring it on through. And catching the pasta at the bottom, we have spaghetti. Now there's a few ways you can tell you've made the spaghetti right. If you can hold it in your hand and it doesn't glom together, like you can pick up a noodle and separate it, you've done it right. If you can press the ends together and part them again, you've done it right. Also, if you see that it's able to hold a little bit of flour but it's not crackly and it's not too thin, you've done it right.